Hey, welcome back to the Brass Ass Podcast, folks. Yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace. I got a 7-part series that we're working on right now. And if you can remember, in episode 1, right, we talked about why first impressions mattered so much for the hockey player. So today, we're diving into episode 2, and we're going to be learning a new coach's system, right? Every coach, folks, let's get into it, runs things differently. You know, some coaches want fast, aggressive forecheck. Then there's other coaches who sit back, play smart defensively, and wait for mistakes to happen. So I got something for you, and it's something you might want. The question is, yes, how do you adapt quickly so you can stand out more and earn more ice time? Okay, so why systems matter? Let's get into it. Here's the thing, folks. You know, no matter how skilled you are as a hockey player, if you don't play the coach's system, you won't play much. You won't see the ice very much if you're not playing the coach's system, folks. And that's the truth. That's the bottom line. Coaches, I'll tell you why, they care about structure because it makes the team successful. For example, maybe last season or the season before, your team ran a 1-2-2 forecheck, but your new coach, your new team, this new coach wants a 2-1-2, right? It's not whether one is better than the other, no, right? It's about whether you can adjust and execute as a teammate, as a player, right? Because I'll tell you why. If the players who adapt quickly prove that they're reliable to the new coach. And guess what? Reliability equals ice time. And that's the bottom line. So what to expect from a new coach? Well, I'll tell you what you expect, folks. When you join a new coach, expect the first few weeks, you know, learning their systems, right? Yeah, the new coach's systems, you know, the forecheck and the breakout systems, you know, where you should be on the ice without the puck, right? Then you're going to be learning the special teams, you know, power play and penalty kill. You know, the setups can be completely different from last year. The communication style with your new coach, you know, some coaches, folks, explain everything. And sometimes they explain it too much. What I mean is at practice, sometimes they'll talk for about 10 to 15 minutes, right? They talk too much and they lose everybody on the ice. And then you get other coaches who expect you as a player to figure it out. Yes, 2 different styles. And there's even more styles than that, believe it or not. You know, but I got a tip for you folks, players. The key is just being a sponge, right? What I mean about that is, you know, take notes. You got to ask questions, right? And watch video if it's available, right? You know, I'll tell you, folks. I'll tell you, you know, doing all that, folks, because I'll tell you, I've seen players struggle, right? Good players, because they tried to play their own way, right? Instead of playing the coach's way, right? I'm talking about good players here that didn't want to play the new coach's system. They tried to do it their old way, right? It didn't work out, right? I'm telling you, and they struggled. Even if they had skill, you know what the thing is? They didn't get trusted by the new coach, okay? But I've also seen players on the other hand, right? You know, who weren't the most talented, right? But they bought into the new coach's systems 100%, right? Yeah, these players, those type of good players that bought in, they learned the system fast. They executed, and guess what, right? Yeah, the coach rewarded them with lots of ice time, folks, right? So, another big question is how to adapt quickly. Well, here are a few tips, folks. You know I love giving tips. And if you're learning a new coach's system, tip number 1, pay attention, folks, in the meetings. Don't tune out. The little details matter. Trust me, they do. Ask questions, right? I'll tell you why, because it shows you care about getting it right? And something that I learned as a hockey player years ago, folks, watch the veterans that are out there. Watch the players that were on that team the year before, the coached by this new coach. Yeah, watch them, right? Because they already know what the coach wants. Keep it simple. Really keep it simple, folks. Don't overthink players. Just follow the structure, right? And another big thing, have patience. You got to have patience, because I'll tell you why. Mistakes happen, right? But effort and willingness matter a lot more. And that's the truth, right? So here's the takeaway on today's episode, folks, right? Buying into the new coach's system, right? Talent is great, yes, but if you can't adapt to your coach's system, guess what? You won't reach your full potential, right? And you got to be flexible out there, players. Be coachable and buy in early, right? That's how, I'll tell you why, that's how you earn more ice time and really prove you're a team first player, okay? I hope you got something out of this episode, because I gave you a lot of information in a short period of time, because it's so important, folks. I'm telling you, because you're going to be facing this throughout your career a lot of times, right? Now, look in our next episode, right, on the Brass Ass Podcast, we're going to be talking about how to earn trust and ice time, and why the little things matter more than most players realize, right? Folks, again, you know what? I want to thank you so much for listening to the Brass Ass Podcast, folks. I really appreciate it. And remember, players, effort and attitude are two things that you can always control. Yes. Yeah. I am your host, sjhl. This is the Brass Ass Podcast, and you now have listened to the rest of the story.